my guests today are very special. Twice a year, I invite the Department of Natural Resources for biologists, turkey biologists, whitetail biologists, and DNR officers to visit with us at O'Neill Outside. And we talk about the upcoming season, like we're headed for the turkey season. Right now, I have with me Kevin Lowry. He's a turkey biologist for the Department of Natural Resources. And James Keener, Corporal James Keener, he's a game warden, if you will, law enforcement. So we're talking exclusively today about turkey hunting. So let me pose, if you will, my first question. Let's make it for Kevin, if you will. What is our turkey population for the state and around the southeast, and what can we expect from the turkey season?
So, in general, the southeast has been seeing a decline in reproduction over the last 10 years. And Georgia's no different. And so from about 2012 to 2015, we kind of had 4 or 5 years of poor reproduction in Georgia, which kind of limited our supply of gobblers for sure. And so on the good news is that 2015 saw a little bit of uptick in reproduction. 2016 saw the best reproduction we had had since 2011.
Okay.
Those birds are 2.5 and 3.5 years old this spring. I suspect we're going to see a pretty good spring this year.
Okay.
On the bad news side, reproduction was poor again in 2017, so maybe next year might be a little tougher.
What are you attributing that to, Kevin?
You know, they're cyclic bird, so population cycle, and we're just in a bad cycle right now for sure. Everybody in the southeast has got new research going on, trying to put their finger on what that problem could be. But more than likely, it's probably a combination of things. You're losing habitat. So. You have an increased predator population. You know, you have some odd regional weather patterns. We're either in long-term drought or we're in flooding situations. We're not getting the normal weather patterns that we had in the past. It's probably going to be very complex and a little bit of all of that.
I would imagine so. So we'll see a lot of 2-year-old birds this year throughout the season, and then it'll probably diminish again. Well, it always does. All wildlife cycles, does it not?
That's right. The problem is when you run back-to-back without a good year, like we did for 4 years there, and our harvest stayed fairly high, so we're harvesting at a pretty high rate, but we weren't producing, and you can't do that in your checking account very long, and you can't do that with turkeys very long either. You got it. So ultimately, that ended in a 2016 season that was our lowest harvest ever, but we bounced back in 2017 harvest-wise, and I suspect we're going to be somewhere in that neighborhood.
Right, before I get over to James, I'm a little bit of a numbers guy. Okay, let's take an overall look at turkey population, all the species, 50 years ago versus now. What was the population in the United States with all these species 50 years ago versus now?
Yeah, I can't remember nationwide how many we had 50 years ago, but I know now it's somewhere around 7 million nationwide. In Georgia specifically, around 1973, they estimated the population to be about 17,000 turkeys in Georgia, and now we're probably in the neighborhood of 250 to 300,000 turkeys, and we peaked probably in the 90s, somewhere around 400,000 turkeys.
Okay, and that was because of people like the Department of Natural Resources, the Wild Turkey Federation, conservation groups, and so on.
Exactly. So it had gotten started in the 40s and 50s a little bit around the country with trying to restock turkeys in certain places. They started out going down the wrong road, trying to pen raise turkeys, game farm turkeys. That didn't work. Some waterfowl guys had invented this thing called a cannon net, and a good turkey biologist looked at that and said, I might could trap some turkeys with that. And he took that cannon net, and then they were off and running. They were able to catch birds. Joe Kurz from Georgia, former director in Georgia, he actually pushed for trap and transfer, which allowed a state to trap birds in their state and transfer them to another state, which sped up the restocking of wild turkeys across the southeast, and so Georgia, we've had a long history with this bird, and it's definitely on everybody's mind to keep watching that population, so we're not sitting around like quail biologists now,
Yeah.
you know, saying, wow, they were declining a few years ago, you know.
What happened?
Exactly.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, and now I want to introduce everybody to James Keener. James is, you don't live very far from here, do you, James?
No, sir. I hate to say it, but kind of homeless right now, living with mom and dad again, in the process of building a house. So,
Good for you.
but I'm born and raised in Pickens County, and plan on building a retirement home here too.
Oh,
so
cool.
I don't plan on going anywhere.
Okay, good. Well, you're in a good part of the country. I think in Georgia, at least, the mountain counties are the prettiest, of course, instead of the Piedmont area and the flats down there. I think Hancock County and Morgan County is awfully pretty, too. We're in our semi-annual visit from the Georgia Department of Natural Resources. A lot of great information today, and I hope you'll join us. Telephone numbers are 404-872-0750 or 800-972-8255. Before I get to my questions for James, I want to encourage you to and invite you to watch O'Neill Outside television. This week we are at, I believe we're on the Georgia coast fishing for redfish and trout. And please do go to O'Neill Outside and click on the YouTube opportunity there and subscribe, if you will. We've got a great contest coming up, and I want you to be used to going to O'Neill Outside. So, Corporal James Keener, for the upcoming turkey season, the unusual question. Ready? See
Yes,
if you
sir.
can answer this one. When you have violations, is there any violation or breaking of the game laws that are a surprise to the perpetrator, if you will? You say, I didn't know I couldn't do that, so to speak.
Usually not. Of course, we're going to get any kind of excuse in the world at certain times, but anytime we have a new change, for instance, like the turkey harvest and deer harvest changes that have been made in the last couple of years.
Okay.
Sometimes those things catch people off guard,
The number of harvest.
or how the
Right.
the harvest process now, where you actually call in and get a confirmation number.
That's right. Let's see, that's been in effect
This-
2 years?
2 years.
2 years, and it's still going to be a surprise to a lot of guys.
It is, especially when you might have a hunter that hunted 3 years ago and just didn't get a chance to hunt last couple of years and got back into it, or somebody that hasn't hunted before until now, a younger hunter.
Am I wrong when I say that your job as a game warden during the peak of the hunting seasons, this is a 7-day week job?
Yeah, and it's not just during a season anymore. It's really a 7-day a week, 24-hour-a-day job.
Wow.
We want to be an agency that has good customer service. We want to answer our phones and be available for people at all times of the day, and sometimes that happens on off days as well.
I'm sure it does. Yeah. Yeah, we've talked about that this morning, about everybody works hard these days, harder than most, I must say. So, in the past. Now, James, what would you, knowing that you were going to be here today, and talking to our audience at WSB and the SB Nation and on Facebook and all that, those glorified numbers, is there anything? What's the primary message that maybe you have for the turkey hunter? Do you have one?
Just in general safety. Anything that we're talking about comes with firearm safety or tree stand safety. So safety is always an issue. Make sure you identify your target, the areas beyond it, in front of it. Make sure that you make clean, ethical kills on these animals or harvest, and just make sure that you're safe in the woods for yourself and others at all times.
Okay. This is probably versus the deer season, this is the safest because you're not climbing a tree.
Yeah, I think we have probably more deer hunting related accidents or incidents each year than we do turkey season.
And that's mostly from
a lot of that's tree stand falls.
Accidents, all right?
It is.
Yeah. It was a marvelous thing then when these people came out with the tree stand harness.
Yes.
Because I know, I won't call his name, but because I know a fellow who fell and hung upside down for some extended period of time, and he has never gotten over it.
We had lots of those specific types of incidents last year, more so than I saw the entire part of my career until last year.
Really?
I can think of probably at least 4 people that that either fell backwards or tipped out of a tree stand and hung upside down for an extended period of time.
Wow.
Just this last season.
Oh, no kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's for both of you now. Then, do we have? Is the turkey hunting, the hunter population, is it still growing, or is it steadied out? What do you think?
I think it's still growing, but you really have you have hunters coming in and then leaving and coming in. So they get in when the population is ticking up, and they get out when it's a lower cycle.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And that's kind of the watching the hunter numbers from year to year. You know, you'll move up, you'll go up 6,000 hunters and drop back down the next year for a low cycle. So I think a lot of them, you've got your hardcore hunters that are going to be there every year, and then you've got the ones that are in and out. Maybe they're working and then out of work and seasonally or something. But I think the core is there. But I do think it's growing. I just see more people out and about during turkey season than I used to.
We talk more about turkey hunting than we ever have before because it's more of a reality now than it ever was before. Everybody has more of an opportunity to bag a bird, see a bird, hear a bird than ever before. And I think probably, to me, that the fact that you have a greater interaction with the game that you don't have anywhere else except maybe duck hunting, and that's a remote communication level. In my judgment, the eastern especially is the number one big game animal in North America, but you have to know more, do more to be practiced at more things in combination than any other single animal. And I'm taking up space here, but I want to say it. You call and you get a response. Shot placement is necessary. You have to be fully camoed. You cannot move. And lastly, you're taking the bird out of his normal work between himself and the hens. There's no other combination like that.
That's right.
Ducks, deer, elk, hogs, no matter what. It's that way. All right, for you, Kevin, I guess, or both really, let's talk about our predator population. What can we do about it, and what is the level of predators, and what's it doing to the population of turkeys?
Right. So, the jury's out on how much impact it's having on turkeys. I personally believe that there's when we look at nest success rates in below 30%, and in a lot of studies it's in the 20s and teens. There's room there. There's some biological potential there that could be gained if we had less egg-eating mammals out there. And currently, because the trapping has been suppressed, there's no market for these furs. Largely, people have gotten out of the trapping
Certainly
as a sport or for profit. So those predator populations are as high as they've probably ever been. Right now, I mean, they're just not being used. So the possums, the raccoons, they really probably have a bigger impact because they're nest predators. They're eating them 8 and 12 at a time instead of 1 at a time. And then, of course, we're not even sure of the impact that the coyote's having. We feel it's having some impact for sure.
It has to.
They're hard to study. Any diet study doesn't show the feathers real good in the coyote stomach, so it's hard to point to them a lot of times and say yes, definitely. But anecdotally, I would say that they're probably having some impact. We have some research in Middle Georgia right now at Cedar Creek and B.F. Grant, and part of that is we transmitted coyotes, and we have radios on gobblers and hens, and then we have these song meters out in the woods, and these song meters record everything, including gobbles. So in theory, we're trying to see, so if you have a song meter that's been recording all this gobbling activity, and then all of a sudden we have a coyote move in, because we can watch that, they're all GPS transmitters. So coyote moves in, does that change gobbling activity on that song meter. So these folks at UGA are looking at that and trying to see if there is some interaction. You know, you hear a lot from hunters that turkeys don't gobble anymore because of the coyote. I'm not sure that's true, but we want to see if there is some interaction there.
When people ask me questions of that nature related to that area here on the radio show and in personal appearances and everything, I always go with you guys because I mean you're so well researched and you look at the problem over such a length of time, and versus some guy who went to the woods once and he said, I didn't see any turkeys.
Right.
The coyotes have gotten them. Well, maybe, but maybe not. One little visit to the woods is not going to give that answer.
As far as what folks can do about their predator problem, to me, it's kind of like the ice cream management tool. So after you've done all the good stuff and cleaned your plate, so to speak, you've done the habitat work and the timber work, and you've got your food plots planted, and all that's done, and you're still looking for something to do predator control.
Okay.
And then,
all right, let's go to that predator control from either one of you now. Is predator control just shooting coyotes and things when you see them during a hunt, or is it a program of trapping and so forth that's effective?
I think the only effective way is a combination. Of course, you know, we're going to advise anybody that they're definitely not going to hurt anything by harvesting those animals whenever they see them, just opportunistic.
Certainly. Okay.
But I think to be effective, you're probably going to have to do a combination of things, such as trapping or just shooting on sight.
I know up here where I live and up in the mountains in North Georgia, there's a couple of sounders up here, hogs, okay? No one is hunting them here. No one is shooting them on site up here. So we, the association, have had to bring in trappers, and they're trapping them 20 and 30 at a time. That's, to me, that's the only way it can be effective.
Yes.
You know, you pull the trigger on the one you see, he's gone.
right.
But that's just one.
We're doing a good bit of that on some of our wildlife management areas up
Are
here
you?
as well, and you know, you figure how many acres a hog can eat, you know, and you know we spend a good bit of time planting food plots, but part of me is thinking, you know, we remove 50 hogs off an area, we may be doing more for that area than we are planting this food plot.
Certainly, absolutely.
Just because of the potential that they could, I mean, the amount of food they could eat over the course of a year.
Well, a hog is an omnivore, isn't it? He eats anything and everything, dead, live, vegetable, no matter what.
Absolutely.
He's anything and everything. And that population is still going up, is it not? Am I correct when I say the population for hogs is rising?
I would, yeah, I would say so,
Yeah.
and nationwide probably. And that being said, you know that I think there's probably more focus on them as being invasive now than there ever has been, and I think a lot of sportsmen are seeing some of the negatives and not just celebrating them as something extra to hunt. That's right.
So, all right, let's take a break here. If we can, if we're on the right time. I'm at 35 after the hour. This is O'Neill with O'Neill Outside. And when we return, I have questions about the bear population in Georgia. And we'll get to that in a moment.
O'Neill Outside.